Guess I shouldn't stand up either, eh?
Remain seated. There we are. We are live. Let me close that down so that nobody can hear that. Off of there. Get the council meeting up. Okay, welcome to another off of there River Council meeting via live YouTube. So great. So I'll call the special meeting of council for May 11th, 2020 to order at 1 p.m. Now, one thing for council on the on how we're going to handle votes today, and this comes from the way we've started handling them with CMRB meetings, and we're going to handle it through consensus first. So as a all of your votes will be assumed as in favor unless you speak up and say otherwise. I will of course ask if there's any those that are opposed, but I'm not going to go through the whole list. It takes too long and it's unnecessary. So can probably speed things up a little bit and have more time for discussion. So on that note, approval of the agenda. So start with Councillor Moore. If Councillor Moore can give me a motion that council adopt the agenda for the special meeting of council May 11th, 2020 as presented.
I will make that motion.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Motion's carried. Adoption of minutes from the special meeting of council from April 21st, 2020. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Masterman. The council adopt the minutes from the special meetings of council on April 21st, 2020 as presented.
Also move.
Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. Public comments. Kara, do you have anything?
There are no public comments.
Thank you very much. Moving along to item 5.1, McCready property purchase. Chris, do you want to speak to this?
Certainly, COLA is online too, Mayor Snodgrass, but this is in result to the purchase of the McCready property on 9th Street, I believe it is,
Yes.
by the dike, and we require a budget amendment to make sure that we allocate the money from reserve to fund this purchase.
Thank you. Cola, do you have anything to add?
Yes, just to add to what Chris said, in accordance with the MGA section 248, municipality may only make expenditures that is included in either the operating budget or the capital budget. Well, because we did not include this as part of the 2020 approved capital budget, we need to amend the capital budget. So
Okay.
that is why we are bringing this forward.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I can see there's 13 people on YouTube that are watching. So just to explain what this is a piece of property at the far north end of 9th Street Southwest that was impacted with the construction of the berm and has, you know, limited the homeowner. So we have decided to purchase this property for a number of reasons, but mainly to create a little bit of a buffer between the berm and homeowners, and chance that we don't have homes being built right up against those berms is important. So that's why council has chosen to purchase this piece of property. Any questions from council before I call the motion?
I have a question, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. I was just inquiring, In our recommendation, it was the maximum amount was 104,629, and now it's 105,250. Is that including the legal fees?
Yes, it includes the legal fees. You are correct.
Thank you.
So the 105,250 is the final number, Cola.
Yes, that's the final number.
Thank you. Any other questions? So Councillor McMillan, I'll ask for a motion from you. The council approve the capital budget amendment in the amount of $105,250 to come from the sale of town land reserve.
I'll make that motion.
Any further discussion from council? Anyone opposed to the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Cola.
Thank you.
Chris. Item, go ahead, somebody.
Oh, sorry, please go ahead, sir.
Okay, 5.2, the 2020 operating budget amendment for the Family Resource Network, Cola.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, Mayor and Council once again. I'm here to present the 2020 operating budget amendment for Family Resource Network, which formerly known as Parent Link. This is a new program that replaces the former program of Parent Link Center. This budget amendment is as a result of the new Family Resource Network program, like I said, which replaced the Parent Link Centers program, which ended 31st March 2020. The funding for the new program, the Family Resource Network, is now $354,000 per year, as against $408,000 we budgeted for the Parent Link Center as part of the 2020 approved budget. So we had a shortfall of $53,920. So to ensure efficient running of the new Family Resource Network program, Council is being asked today to authorize the reallocation of $30,000 from the community grant to agencies under the Family and Community Support Services program. Budget, we want to move from that budget to cover part of the shortfall in the funding of this new program for Family Resource Network, in addition to reduction in staff, which is approximately about 1 FTE in total, and also to retain the remaining $30,000 in FCSS program to cover the funding shortfall for the FCSS Resource Center. So overall, we are asking for reallocation of the previously approved $60,000 from the FCSS program. $30,000 will move to the new program, and $30,000 will remain with the FCSS program to fund the shortfall of $30,000 from the FCSS program itself. So with this amendment, the town will now be supporting the new Family Resource Network program with overall net of $70,000, which is about 15%, as against $123,500 under the old Parent Link Centers program, while the province will fund this new program with about 76% for 2020. So this is the end of my presentation. Myself and Nicole can provide answer to any of your questions. Thanks.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Councillor McMillan.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. On page 13 of our agenda, it says about the $354,200 in annual funding granted. But then I noticed on page 15, under section 3, grants received, it says $367,680. And I'm just wondering, where did the extra $30,480 come from? As well as it mentions in section 10 that $11,000 was transferred from reserves. So I would just like some clarification, please.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McMillan. I can provide the answer there. Yeah, thanks for your observation. Very good question. The reason why we have the difference between the 354 and 367 is that the old program ended in March because the province runs April to March. So for the first quarter of 2020, they paid us on the old scheme.
Oh,
Then only 9 months is what will impact us for 2020 based on the new funding. So that is why what we will receive in 2020 will be more than 354. But going forward is going to be 354. But for 2020 is going to be 367.
okay. And then what about the 11,000 from reserves?
The 11,000 is to come from reserves, the FCSS, the community service reserve, to fund some of the underpayments in funding for the new program. We want to move some of, in total, about 11,000 from the FCSS community reserves to pick up some of the shortfall to ensure efficient running of the new program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Kola, I'm reading this and trying to decipher who's going to take the hit on this thing, if there is one. So we're taking funds from one lot and putting them somewhere else just so that we can try to keep as many of our FCSS programs running as we can, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's going to take away from where? Some of the charitable donations that we do through that is
Yes.
where
In the FCSS program, Council already approved 60,000 for 2020 to fund community grants. But part of that is what we are now reallocating because of the shortfall in funding, which means those community grants for 2020 from FCSS, we won't be able to fund the community grants of 60,000. We are just reallocating.
Right. Okay. Just so that I'm clear.
I'd
Go
like
ahead.
to speak.
Councilor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor. This item came as kind of a surprise to me today on the agenda, and I really feel like I haven't had enough time to digest everything that's going on. But from a sort of high level, what I see here is a number of groups like Inclusion Foothills, Victims Assistance, and those sorts of groups. I think there was 12 or 13, if memory serves me right, last year. They relied on this funding to provide their programming to High River and area. I can't support the motion to move these funds without having more discussion about, is there other options? Is there other things we could do? This is going to blindside some of these organizations, and I don't think it's fair to them. And I do see that one of them is going to get, I believe it was 5,000 in the motion. So I'd like to propose that we move this to Cal meeting.
Can I speak to that at some point, Mayor Snodgrass?
Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah. The FCSS board had a lengthy discussion about this, recognizing that there absolutely are some social profits that are going to be impacted by this decision. The United Way grants are still available to all of them, and I believe the majority of them do approach or do receive the United Way grants. They also do continue to have the ability to fundraise. Obviously, since our board met, recognizing that is also impacted, but it was a decision of the FCSS board that the programs and services that we offer through the Resource Center and through FCSS needed to be the priority.
Yeah, and I guess back to Councillor Kinghorn, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it, is kind of why I asked the question as to who's going to take the hit in this. And it's the same way with all the new budget allotments that the province is bringing down to us, that somebody's got to, at some point in time along the chain, somebody's got to eat this thing. And it's the decision for council as to whether we want to support support our FCSS and like Kathy just said, keeping that as our top priority, which I think it should be. And then others that, you know, get funding when it's available. This sucks. This is the kind of stuff that really sucks about where we're at with the provincial budget. So,
Mayor Snodgrass, can I add something to that too? It's Nicole.
yeah.
Thank you. So just to let everybody know too, knowing that there was going to be a budget shortfall with the changes with the provincial government, there were also some internal, I guess we can say, initiatives that were also reduced in order to respond to the budget reduction. So Cole just briefly spoke to this in his presentation, but previously, before this new program was rolled out for the Family Resource Network, we had 5 full-time equivalents. And in order to meet the budget that's now been provided, we've reduced that from 5 to 4 full-time equivalents. And then we've also further reduced staffing hours. So this team traditionally works 40 hours a week, and we've reduced their hours to 35. And then we're also looking at utilizing an underutilized fleet vehicle that the town owns to help in reducing mileage costs. So we've taken some initial measures to respond to the budget shortfall, as well as are asking for the community grant reallocation. So the community grants aren't the only piece that we're looking for or adjustments that we've made.
So I'll take it back to Councillor Kinghorn for a second. Sorry, and I heard Councillor Moore there as well. So back to Councillor Kinghorn, and then we'll go to Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand where the money's coming from and where it's going. I think there are ways or better ways we can find a few bucks for FCSS. I don't think that slashing these, I think it was, again, 12 or 13 organizations out of critical funding at this time is the right thing to do. This was a thing that was put forward by council and has been approved since I can recall, going back to 2010. And I think we need to relook at this before we make a final decision today.
Councillor Moore.
I was just going to point out that those organizations were subject to availability of funds in the past as well, and that the United Way funding is flexible to all of these organizations as well, so that depending on how much is raised from the United Way funding, traditionally it's around $75,000 a year, that they could receive a bigger grant from the United Way when it comes up for approval. So it would lessen the effect.
Can I also add, Mayor Snodgrass, if you're done, Councillor Moore?
Yes, thank you.
Kathy.
Shelley's also talked about, we also talked about, and again, it's obviously been a couple months since the board meeting, assisting United Way with some additional fundraising in the community to try to bring those numbers up. And just to be clear, those organizations that are getting funds, we're not talking lots of dollars. It would be rare that an organization would get $10,000 or $15,000. It's usually more $2,500, $3,000, $5,000. So as much as every dollar is critical, it's not program ending dollars we're talking about, because it is divvied up so thinly.
Right. Thanks, Kathy. So I'll go back to Councillor Kinghorn, because these types of meetings are a little bit challenging to make sure we're all on the same page. So I guess my ask is, would you like to make a tabling motion? Is that what you were thinking of doing?
That's exactly what I was asking for, is that we table this so that we can have a COW and meeting in the near future. look for other places of funding. I agree that FCS is valuable and that we need to support them. But there has to be, or I believe there's something somewhere that we can come up with to fill the gap in for this year and then really look at the 2021 budget in the fall.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor from Councillor Kinghorn to table resolution number SC 31-2020. And I'll open that for discussion.
Could I just make a point about the tabling motion? Tabling would bring it to the end of this meeting. A postponement motion would take it to a future meeting.
Thank you very much. That is correct. So, friendly amendment back to Councillor Kinghorn to motion to postpone.
Yes, in favor.
31-2020.
Yes.
Okay. Discussion is open for the table or for the postponement motion. I guess I'll speak to it first. We've adjusted our operating budget. We've adjusted our tax increase to 0. I'm just kind of curious as to where this money might come from, Councillor Kinghorn. I'm struggling to find where that place might be.
That's what I would task administration to look for it. I mean, there's lots of things that we're not doing this year. Lots of things that are going to be postponed to 2021. I mean, if nobody's in favor of it, then let's call for the vote and go from there.
Okay. Any other discussion on the postponement motion? I will call this question individually. So Councillor Kinghorn with the motion for the vote. Councillor Moore?
Opposed.
Councillor Masterman?
Opposed.
Councillor McMillan?
Opposed.
Councillor Cooey?
Opposed.
Councillor Nychuk?
Opposed.
There's Snodgrass? Opposed. The motion to postpone is defeated. Thank you very much, Councillor Kinghorn, and we are back to the main motion. I will read the motion and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to ask for this motion from Councillor Cooey. Whereas the town of High River has received funding from the province for the operation of a family resource center, and whereas the funding provided was not sufficient to provide the service outlined in the proposal, the motion is be it resolved that council authorize the reallocation of community grant initiative within the 2020 FCSS budget as follows: $25,000 to the new family resource center for the purposes of staffing, $5,000 to the Foothills Regional Victim Services, and $30,000 to remain in the FCSS budget to cover provincial funding reductions affecting children's services. And further be it resolved that council authorize the transfer of the net balance of $53,400 from the Family Resource Network, formerly Parent Link Center, to the General Municipal Reserve. Could you give me that motion, Councillor Cooey?
I will give you that motion.
Thank you. This boat had an asthma attack there. Ask for consensus, or is there any questions, further discussion on that motion? So I'll ask for a consensus vote. Is there any that are opposed?
I am.
Councillor Kinghorn is opposed. All others in favor?
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Sorry. Maybe I got ahead of myself. It feels like we also had a motion did we add the motion to the next decision? I could be wrong.
Did we
Was
add-
the last thing you read for council to authorize the amendment of
53.
So we've got the allocation of the 60,000, right?
Yep.
Purpose, and then they're asking for authorization of the transfer of the net balance of 53,400.
Yep.
Is that
Mayor
right?
Snodgrass, it's Nicole.
Yeah.
We actually made an adjustment or an update to the council report. So the version that you're reading from the last motion doesn't appear in the current version of the council report and agenda. So that
So on my script is old.
No,
Karen, can you jump in at all?
Hang on. I get where we're going here.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, so the portion that I read, the further be it resolved, is no longer part of this motion. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yes,
Okay, so it ends at the allocation of the 60,000.
that's right. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll rewind that and ask for the last portion and further be it resolved, et cetera, to be deleted from the motion you are giving, Kathy.
Yes, that's fine.
Ends at the allocation of the 25 to Family Resource Center, 5 to the Foothills Regional Victim Services, and 30,000 remaining in FCSS. Okay, thank you, because that makes more sense to me as to where we're going to. So, all good. So on that, I'm going to rewind. So I have the motion from Councillor Cooey. Councillor Kinghorn still opposed.
Still opposed.
Councillor Nychuk in favor.
Yes, in favor.
Councillor McMillan.
In favor?
Councillor Masterman.
In favor.
Councillor Moore.
in favor.
Thank you. Mayor Snodgrass is in favor. Motion carries. Yeah, that one's done. 2020 operating budget amendment in the property tax reduction. Back to COLA, I take it.
Yep. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council once again. This is to present the 2020 overall operating budget amendment due to reduction in property tax revenue, as well as the new Family Resource Network program. So this is the overall budget amendment for the town. Following the council consideration of zero tax, which means a revenue neutral to the town, directive to administration in view of the current economic climate across Canada due to COVID-19, and for the town to collect same amount of property tax revenue for 2019, which means the 2.8% tax increase earlier approved by council on December 17, 2019, as part of the 2020 approved operating budget is now removed. So the town is going back to exact amount that we collected in 2019. This amendment will now ensure revenue neutral for the town by removing the 2.8 tax increase earlier approved. And also, in addition to that, the town will also be absorbing the under levy of approximately about $112,000 for 2019 education tax. So the operating budget will now be reduced by 630, with the offset coming from the reduction in various sections of the expenses to arrive at a balanced budget for 2020. So this is the end of my presentation. I can answer any of your questions.
Okay. Thanks, Cola.
Thanks.
Questions from council?
Cola, I have a question.
Yes.
It's some assessment of some of the properties in High River have gone up in their assessment, and some probably have gone down. So you are saying that the 2019 property tax would remain the same for 2020, but some property owners will be paying a higher tax than 2019 and others a little bit lower. It's just the overall tax assessment will not be the same in 2020, or will be the same as 2019.
So let me correct one statement there. My statement was actually referring to the revenue for the town, not for individual property owners.
Right.
For individual property owners, it does not mean that you will pay exactly what you paid in 2019.
Right.
And that is why I said it is revenue neutral to the town. But the implication is that if your assessment goes up, definitely your 2020 tax might go up as well. If your assessment value goes down, there is possibility that your 2020 property tax will go down. But overall, for the town, it's going to be zero. It's going to be wash.
Right. Thank you, Kola. I just wanted to get that clear.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
Mayor Snodgrass?
Who do I got? Councillor Kinghorn, my guess?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Kola, for the public, can you explain where we're obviously going from a 2.9 down to a 0? Where are we cutting in order to achieve this 0%?
Yes. Just a sec.
I recognize you can't be specific down to dollars, but just roughly.
Yes. So roughly, for us to achieve the reduction, we are reducing wages and salary by about 300,000 due to vacancies. Usually when we make our budget, we assume some period when the vacancies will be filled. But in view of what is going on now, so we know some of those vacancies will not be filled. So we'll be able to save both salaries and benefit of about 300,000 there. And also on contracted general services as well. We know we are almost half of the year. Some of the projects will not be able to execute them. So we are estimating about 200,000 reduction in expenses there. And also on training, we are also estimating about 70,000 reduction on our training budget as well. So those are the few areas we reduce the expenses on.
And the transfer to reserves, we're not going to be doing.
We will maintain the same level of transfer to reserve, which Council approved earlier. Yes.
Any further questions from council? So I will ask for this motion from Councillor Kinghorn, if you could, that council approve the amended 2020 operating budget in the amount of $32,140,500.
I will give you that motion, Mayor.
Thank you. By consensus, anyone opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Thanks again, Kola. And I
Thank
think
you.
you're probably up for the last one too.
Yes. So good afternoon once again, Mayor and Council. This is the usual report we always present to Council. If you recall, we usually present the budget, the capital budget carry forward at the end of every year. Once we finish the initial preparation of the audit and we know our position on the actual expenses on projects, we usually present to Council to see where we ended up with the capital budgets that you approved. So this is a traditional report just for you to see where we ended up. And as you can see in the report, 35 of the 2019 capital projects were not completed at the end of 2019 for various reasons. Some were not completed due to the length and scheduling of the project. and others were delayed by organizational commitments in other areas. Many of the renewal projects were also on hold. Some of them were on hold, awaiting government of the provincial approvals. So as you can see on the document presented to you, for the TANS project, we are estimating a carry forward of about
49.
Forward of about 12 million, 12.145 for the TANS project. While we are estimating a carry forward for the renewal projects of 37,342,000. Overall, we are asking for carry forward of about 49,488,750 So that's the summary of the reports. You can see the details as for each of the projects, the status. We have a comment section where we provide you with the status on each of the projects. So that's the end of my presentation. If there's any specific question on any of the projects, either myself or Riley will be able to answer.
Okay, thanks, Kola. Questions from council? None. Pretty clear. So I'll ask this motion from Councillor Nychuk, please, that council accept the 2019 capital budget carry forwards in the amount of $49,488,750.
I make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
By consensus, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Council correspondence, item number 6. That's pretty funny. Any other discussion?
Mayor,
Go ahead, Councillor Cooey.
Mayor Snodgrass, if I could just give a shout out to the residents on Riverside Drive. They've jokingly renamed it O Canada Lane. And if you're out traveling about, I encourage you to go down. A number of the residents have participated in the Rotary's flag program, and it looks pretty great with all the flags on that road.
I did go down there the other day. It's it's pretty cool. They've all stepped up. It's pretty neat driving down there. Glad you mentioned that.
Could I make a comment as well?
Absolutely, Councillor Moore.
Riverside Boulevard as well has 25 Canadian flags out on that short section of the boulevard.
Wow. Awesome. Wow. I got 2 out of my window here, but me and Smitty. Okay. Any other comments from council or administration before we go? None? Meeting adjourned, 1:38 p.m. Thank you very much. Back to Netflix, YouTubers.